Hello and welcome to Tar Heel Teachers at Home. I'm Marlo Artis. I'm the moderator of the program. Tar Heel Teachers at Home is an interview series focused on engaging North Carolinians in conversations around education. Each week, I'm happily joined by a wonderful panel of educators, each one representing a particular subsection of education. We'll start our introductions with our elementary school co-host.
Hello, I'm Amy Tart, and I teach 5th grade ELA and Social Studies for Clinton City Schools, and you can follow me on Twitter at Cards for Scholars.
Okay, I'm Antonio Covington. I'm the Wells Fargo 2022 Sandhills Region Principal of the Year in Hope County. That's in Rayford, North Carolina. My school is East Hope Middle School, and you can follow me on Twitter at AMCovington05.
Awesome. Congratulations. And we're so happy to have you as our special guest middle school co-host.
Hello, I am Marissa Fuchs, and I am the high school special guest co-host today. And I am currently the assistant principal at Lee County High School and Lee County Schools. And my Twitter handle is @Fuchs, F-U-X, Marissa, M-A-R-I-S-S-A.
Awesome. Congratulations to you on your recent appointment as the assistant principal at Lee County High School. And we're glad to have you as our special guest high school co-host.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Arisha Smalls, and I am the AIG Program Coordinator for Cumberland County Schools, and you can follow me on Twitter at SmallsArisha.
Awesome. For this episode of Tar Heel Teachers at Home, we are chatting with Dr. Fleming, who is the superintendent for Harnett County Schools. Recently, Dr. Fleming was recognized as the Sandhills Regional Superintendent of the Year, an honor that he has earned and received for the last 2 years. Dr. Fleming, welcome to Tar Heel Teachers at Home.
Well, thank you so much. It's great to be here. I have watched episodes in the past, and so I'm honored to be your guest this evening.
We're really happy to have you as our special guest, Dr. Fleming. Dr. Fleming, what do you think it was that your colleagues decided to recognize you as the Sandhills Regional Superintendent of the Year once again? Why do you think they made that decision?
Well, I wish I knew. I think all of them are Sandhills regional superintendents, especially over the last couple of years. It has been a crazy time, but it's certainly been a time that we've tested, and it looks like we have made it through for the most part. But I have a strong support group of colleagues within the Sandhills region, and I've been honored to be able to serve as the regional chairman this past year. And it's really been just refreshing being able to meet back in person again with them, and for us just to share what's going on in all of our districts, because oftentimes we've run into the same issues, and we've been able to walk through that and talk through that together. And so I'm very honored to serve with my fellow superintendents in the Sandhills region, and very excited and very proud to be able to represent them again this coming year.
That is wonderful, and you're right. There is an exceptional group of superintendents in the Sandhills region, and you represent them quite well. So, Dr. Fleming, how would you describe Harnett County Schools to individuals who haven't had an opportunity to visit your school district?
Well, Harnett County is really a little bit of everything. We're still a rural county, but we do border Wake County to the south, and to the south of Wake County, and our southern border borders Cumberland County. And so, while we're very rural within the boundaries of the school district, we are seeing a lot of growth from the Triangle moving down into the northern border of Harnett County, as well as a lot of growth because of Fort Bragg and all on our southern side. And so we're seeing housetops come up everywhere. We're building new schools, but I like to think that we're still kind of that hometown school district that people like being a part of, where it's definitely still manageable, but we're able to see, again, with the growth, good things come along with that as well. Industry, being able to have additional options. And when it comes to recruiting teachers, it really helps because they are so close to the beach or to the mountains or into the Triangle. And so I really think we have it all in Harnett County.
Yeah, that is true. And there is a lot of growth, but you're right. You all still have that hometown feel. I was recently at the central office and I just love how cozy it was. And I really felt welcome. It's just that has that really hometown feel. So Dr. Fleming, please provide us with an overview of your career, starting back as your time as an ag teacher through your current role as superintendent.
Absolutely. Well, I grew up in rural Rowan County, southern Rowan County. It's very similar in many ways to Harnett. It's growing from the Charlotte growth, but I grew up in rural Rowan County. I had grandparents, and my parents were involved in farming, and that's something that really carried through with me as I grew up and made the decision to go to NC State, go Pack, and pursue a degree in agricultural education, and then kind of that desire to get back home and to teach high school agriculture. And while I always thought I would go back to Rowan County as a teacher, I actually went to Cabarrus County, taught for a couple of years. While I was working on my master's degree, I came to Johnston County for a couple of years and taught before I went into school administration. And so I was very fortunate enough. I went to the Northwest part of the state, to Wilkes County, served as career and technical education director. I always had a passion for CTE and wanted to make sure, even though I was moving into administration, I would always have that connection, and served there several years. And then I had an opportunity, moved to Lee County, went 8 years in Lee County as CTE director. And then one day I got an interesting phone call that the new Speaker of the House wanted someone that had a background in both education and agriculture, and was looking for a policy advisor. And so I had, again, the unique honor of serving 2 years for Speaker of the House, Tim Moore, working on education and agriculture policy, most of it being education policy. While I was finishing my doctorate degree and obtained my superintendent's license, I then had the opportunity to come to Harnett County, where I've been for the last 5.5 years. And I know probably us recording this show tonight will go quick. I can tell you these 5.5 years have really gone by quick. It seems like just yesterday I joined the Harnett County team, and it has, without a doubt, been very rewarding. I've had an opportunity to meet with so many wonderful people, and we've been able to do some really good things for kids, not just curriculum and instruction wise, but safety wise as well.
So many great things happening in Harnett County, and we're happy to share those things, Dr. Fleming. And thank you for providing us with that great overview of your extensive career here in the state. What questions do we have for Dr. Aaron Fleming, the two-time Sandhills Region Superintendent of the Year?
I'd love to ask the first question. You kind of led right into this, Dr. Fleming. What intrigued me personally about reading some of your articles and researching you just a little bit, and especially as a young leader now appointed at Lee County High School, was your correlation with CTE programming and how you really worked to integrate that with your core academic content and how you made it available to go to those community colleges. So my question to you is, what would be the biggest takeaway or structure that you would encourage school leaders like myself to implement to kind of get that correlation and initiative grounded and started?
Well, I believe that when our students graduate high school, they should be well-rounded. They should have had an opportunity, not just on the academic side to get an excellent education, but also that they're leaving high school with some form of skill. Even if it's not their career, they should have an opportunity to have an avocation. And so once they do go through their college years, they always have something they can work on the side, or a way they can help their family, whatever it may be. And so I think as you have conversations with business and industry leaders, as you have conversations with parents and asking them, what do we need here? In your case, and I've had the opportunity to spend some time in Lee County, we asked a lot of those questions and had some wonderful apprenticeship programs and academies come out of that conversation. And so I think what you are seeing is a request, if you will, from the community saying, you're doing a really good job, but we want to have an opportunity to add to that. And in many cases, that's CTE, but it also could be through the arts as well. And so I think having that well-rounded student and that well-rounded curriculum will benefit all of our high school students once they walk across that graduation stage.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Dr. Fleming, I'd like to ask a question. This is related more to the geography of your school. Geographically, your district is, like you said, is wedged between those larger districts like Cumberland and Wake County. So what are some of the creative things that you've done with your district in terms of human capital and to stay competitive with those larger districts?
Yeah, I joke a lot with Dr. Kathy Moore and Dr. Marvin Conley a lot and said, hey, you're taking all of our people. But quite frankly, they have the resources to do that, as do the urban school districts in North Carolina. And I think really the one thing we have tried to do more than anything, because we can't always just throw out money, though we've been fortunate with ESSER funds to be able to offer bonuses, as many of you guys have been able to, is we try to focus on PD. We try to focus on staff opportunities as well for professional development, allowing them to grow. One of the things that I am so proud of, and actually it was started in Harnett before I got there, and it was a partnership with Campbell University, where we are turning our teacher assistants into teachers. And Campbell offers them an excellent rate for their tuition. And it has really paid benefits, because we know our teacher assistants have a passion to be in classrooms. They love being in our schools. And I really think it's upon us to try, if they would like, is to try to help them down that road by obtaining their licensure. And that's been one thing. Another thing we've done is a grow your own program with Campbell University. We call it Growing Greatness, and we're in our second year of that. And we sign an intent form with these students when they graduate high school. And that intent form says, if you will come back to us all 4 years, or all 4 summers, I should say, we will pay you a stipend. We will give you quality professional development during the summer months. You can use that stipend towards your tuition, and we will offer you a teaching contract once you graduate. We offer that to all of our students. Most of them are at Campbell, but we have several that are at ECU and State, Charlotte, and other locations. And that has been very beneficial. And we're on our second cohort of that now, of around 20 some students. And so, again, while we can't offer the local supplement that some of our surrounding counties are able to offer, we do believe we offer the support.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Fleming, I'm sure that your district, like Cumberland, like several around the state, we're still trying to bounce back from remote learning. It seems like it was so long ago, but it really wasn't. Just so much has happened in this past year. But everyone is saying that we're trying to get back to normal, but there is no normal. What do you think your teachers need right now as far as professional development is concerned? What kind of support do you feel like your teachers need the most?
Well, right now, I think our teachers need a summer break. I can tell you that. They need a little time to breathe. But once we get back and get back into preparing for the school year, I really think in many ways the professional development they need is really in working with our students, and how can some of them catch up? How can we get back? Like you said, the normal we remember will never be here again. But how can we allow them extra time, or by either compensating them or tutors, to really work directly with our students and getting back to the basics, and I hate using that word, but of making sure these students are doing all they can, and our teachers are doing all they can to catch these students up. Outside of the catching up of the potential learning loss we've all heard a lot about, I also think we have to really direct more resources on the student services side to make sure these students are healthy, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally. It's hard to believe as adults, we've bounced back from a lot of this, but we know our students haven't. And we have got to find a way to get more individuals into our schools to talk to these students, to help them out, or to have services that we can refer these students to. So I really think it's two aspects for our students. One, trying to get them caught back up with our students with our teachers and our tutors and other resources we have available, but then also making sure these students are healthy enough to learn.
My follow-up question to that is, I took a look at your strategic plan and I believe you guys are entering into your 5th year of
Mhm.
that. And I think that it's very commendable to have efforts geared toward the mental health of the students, but we have to have students present. And I saw that attendance was one of the issues that you addressed in your strategic plan, and everybody kind of struggled with that during remote learning. I'm wondering, how did attendance improve, or did it stay the same, or what was going on with your attendance this school year as we returned?
Yeah, so attendance did bounce back, but not to the levels that we remember. I think in often cases where we've noticed a lot of these parents have kept these students at home to homeschool them. In some cases, that may be appropriate. In some cases, it may not be. I think what we've got to do a significant better job at is informing our parents of how important school attendance is. One is the law. But also how important it is for their students to stay on track, stay in school. And I truly believe that in new accountability models, as we look in the future of accountability in North Carolina public schools, I believe attendance will eventually be a part of that. And so I hate to look at everything through the accountability lens, but at the end of the day, I really do believe our schools will be graded on if their students are coming to school or not. And so I think we've got to start, if we haven't already, start pushing the message out there that attendance is important. Students have to be in school. And if they're not in school, they're really falling behind with their peers.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
You kind of talked about PD. I believe that Harnett County is entering their letters cohort this summer. So what is y'all's model for implementing letters look like? And what are some things that you hope to gain with Harnett County?
Yeah, so we are entering our letters training, and one of the things we are going to try to do, because I've heard from teachers all across North Carolina, I've heard from an Iredell County teacher, I've heard from some others that I know there've been, for lack of a better word, complaints of having to do a lot of this after school and at home. And so we are actually going to take some extra work days we've added into our calendar and use those days for our letters training so that our teachers aren't taking a stack of books home and having to do the modules and all at home. And so our teachers seem to be appreciative of that and really are going to enjoy that, I think, for the fact that they're able to do that during the regular workday. And that's really just a lesson learned from other school districts. I think if we were in the first cohort, I'm sure there's a lot of things we would share with other counties as well. And so since we're kind of on the caboose of this train a little bit, we're really appreciative that these teachers and other counties have shared some lessons learned with science of reading and with letters training.
Yes, I can definitely tell you that will be well thanked for. I also wanted to ask, how did your time being an education policy advisor, how does that kind of impact your leadership and the choices that you make as a superintendent today?
Yeah, I think what it does, it allows me to look really at the whole picture. Being in a policy advisor role, a lot of times I would hear people say, well, education shouldn't be political. And while I agree with that, what we have to accept sometimes is that it is political if we want it to or not. And what it's allowed me to do is to see different opinions on how education policy should be, on how fiscal policy in education should be. And so as a superintendent, I try to keep that in mind because, you have to remember, I do report to a school board, and so they have differing opinions as well. And so it's my job as superintendent to take all those opinions and really try to find the best course for us to move forward. And we saw that, again, not just on the curriculum and instruction piece, but when it came to COVID and really a lot of the things you see in the news. We have to take all that, look at our community and what the desires of our community, where they're at, because again, our school board is representative of them, and really try to make the big decisions based on that. And many times, oftentimes they are tough decisions, but we do want to make the best decision for our students, and one that our community will really embrace, because at the end of the day, it's their school system.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Dr. Fleming, can you talk about the mental health support team that you all have established? I think that is a really great initiative. You all have worked really hard to be able to provide that level of service for your students. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. We have a team of individuals within our student services department, and they've done an excellent job. But when duty calls, if you will, they are on notice at any point to help our students, not just on mental health, but really their health overall. And I can think of times when principals have called or guidance counselors have called our office and really said, this student really has to talk to someone right now. They do a wonderful job with our anonymous tip program, which everybody has, the Say Something app and all. And so when there's a student that may be talking about some self-harm or maybe harm to others, these individuals pull together, and I kid you not, it could be anytime, day or night. They're ready to roll, and they will do whatever they can to help our students and get them the services they need. And so I appreciate you mentioning that. That's something that's real special to us. Our student services department has really taken that on. They've been honored by some NNC, I believe, and some other publications for their work. And so it's very organized, and they can tell you even a lot more than I can for the simple are in trenches when needed at a moment's notice. And I'm so proud of the work that they've done. Absolutely. I think, and I do want to share that. I think mental health, I kind of mentioned this in one of my other answers, but I do believe mental health right now is going to be probably the number one issue we have to deal with when students come back this fall. Again, yes, there's the education piece. It's the core of our business. But if our students aren't ready to learn for whatever the reason, physical, mental, emotional, whatever it may be, they will not learn. I hope if we've learned nothing else through COVID, I hope we've learned that.
Mm-hmm. You're right.
My next question is not related to any of the topics that we've talked about so far tonight, but I'm just curious to know, how often do you get to visit schools? And when you are in your schools, what are some of your look-fors?
Yeah, so I hopefully sometimes I'm able to pride myself in the number of school visits that I do and that our senior leadership does. I try to get out of a 5-day week, I try to make sure at least 4 of those I stepped into at least one school and have had an opportunity to meet with the principal and walk around the school. I look really for 2 things. One, I really enjoy walking into classrooms. Being someone who spent a lot of time, again, in high school, middle and high school classrooms, and then as a CTE director, my background is not in elementary education. But I will tell you, probably my proudest days are in elementary schools when I can walk into a K-3 classroom and I am able to watch a teacher teach a student how to read. That is probably my favorite that experience, and now as a superintendent I can do that any day. It still just warms your heart to be able to watch teachers teach students to read, and so I always, especially in our elementary schools, I always try to get into the lower elementary grades in our schools, and then I really look a lot on our curriculum instruction team, really do a lot on the instruction piece, but I also look school safety aspects. That's something that's probably one of my main platforms, especially because when I came in a year after I entered is when we had Parkland, and ever since then it's really one of those things that wakes you up in the middle of the night you're thinking about. So I'm always looking at safety. I'm looking at cleanliness in the schools. I want to make sure our front offices are really welcoming parents as they're coming in. I love when a new parent comes in either to enroll their student or they just have a general question about the school, and I have an opportunity to talk to them for a moment along with the principal. But my goal is always at least 4 days out of the week during the school year to make sure I'm in at least one school a day. And that's tough sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
So before you leave the school, or maybe you do it after, how do you communicate with the principal or the teacher that you were pleased with what you saw that day?
Yeah, I always try to say just a couple words to the teacher, depending on what's going on in the classroom. But one of the things I always do when I meet with the principal, and this goes all the way back to when I first served as a district administrator, is asking them, what can I do? how's your day? What's going on? As you get to know folks, and you guys know this being in your schools, you can tell when somebody's having a bad day, but they don't really want you to know. And you kind of see it in their face. And I think sometimes they probably see it in me too. But I always want to be able to say, okay, is everything all right? Let's talk for a minute. And so I always end any type of school visit asking the principal how they're doing and what I can do better and what they need to be able to do their job better. And sometimes they may not share much. And then there's other times they'll say, I do have one issue. And again, it might be instruction related, it might be facilities related, but I make sure I follow through on whatever it is their request is. Even if I'm not able to do it, I want to make sure I get their question answered or try to get their request fulfilled.
So you mentioned school safety, and obviously that's a huge topic and a very important topic going on right now. I know statewide there are some things being brought to the table. Department of Public Safety has put out getting probation officers and some other individuals involved for safety checks, as well as some community relations. What are some other maybe initiatives or hopes that you have in terms of school safety?
Yeah, I think there's several out there. One, I am appreciative that the state law enforcement officials are going to get out into schools. We've had some already visit our schools. I think that's a great idea. I believe that was started by the governor, and I'm appreciative of that. Other things that we've done is we've made sure that every school has a school resource officer in Harnett County. We do not share SROs. We have 28 school officers for all 28 of our physical campuses. Reason why we have that, especially in the elementary grades, again, is so that SRO can build relationships with students, that they're not there necessarily to say I'm law enforcement and to fear me, but they actually are in those schools to build relationships with those small students. And again, one of those things when you see it happen, you're so appreciative that they're there. We've done a lot of what we call hardening the school. All of our schools are all the front doors, back doors have RFID tags where we use our ID tag to get into the school. We're adding more of those on. We had them on the main primary door. We've received funding from our county commissioners, or believe we will receive the rest of our funding from our county commissioners to complete that. We've upgraded our camera systems, and we hope to complete all of that by Christmas or within the coming school year with these 4K security cameras, something that I think now that we have them, very impressive. I could access those cameras from right here at home if I needed to. And so that's another thing that's very important. And then one of the things we've done that we've really stepped out there, and it was a risk, but wow, it has really paid off, is we have gone and partnered with a company called Bus Patrol, and we have put stop arm cameras on all of our school buses. Again, 4K cameras inside and outside the bus. You can see under the seats. It's amazing. Our bus drivers love it, and it really takes a lot off their plate. So if something goes on either inside or outside that bus, it's recorded. They don't have to remember what color the car was or license plate numbers. It's all captured, and those individuals are ticketed for running the school bus. And again, inside the bus, it's the same thing. If an unfortunate situation happens there, these cameras pick everything up. And so I'm just very appreciative that Bus Patrol was around and wanted to partner with us. We're the first in North Carolina to utilize the stop arm violation law.
Mm-hmm. That is awesome.
And so when you come to Harnett County, you'll see a little yellow box on the side of all our buses. That's how you know you're in Harnett County now.
I'd like to ask a question. This goes back to a little bit about the accountability model, as you were talking earlier, in reference to school performance grades. I was looking at some of your articles earlier with some of your turnaround schools and some of the schools that were on the D list and things like that. So as school performance grades begin to come out this upcoming year, what are you looking forward to as far as the results, or are there any particular schools that you're looking forward to being removed from that list? And then I guess a second question to that, I know it's kind of a lot, is within that formula of creating the school performance grades, is there anything that you'd like to see changed with that formula?
So on your first question, we had a couple schools that were in D. One of those schools is currently closing. We're consolidating it with another school. And so that I think will be more suited for all of those students, and I think will be a better learning environment. On our other schools, we believe we will be. We know we were headed that way before COVID hit. Hopefully we didn't take 10 steps back on that. So we're very optimistic with those schools, looking at some of the scores that have been coming out. Yeah, I believe the weight on school performance grades are incorrect. I believe we need to work on those, get them a little closer. If we're going to keep school performance grades, which I'm sure we probably will, we need to get that a little closer to 50-50, or two separate grades, or however you'd like to look at that. I believe where we have really struggled in the couple D schools there that we had in the performance of those students. When you look at some of them, they had the growth, didn't have the performance, that kept them down. And so I believe balancing that a little more would be better, or count one or the other, whatever it may be. But I believe we need more indicators. I believe we need to have more ways to look at schools. I think when you look at a couple of ours, I think your parent involvement is there. I think students are attending school in those schools higher percentage wise, maybe even than some other schools, but yet we're always just looking at those test scores, and we've got to look beyond that.
Have you thought of any creative ways to quantify some of those things, like you were saying, there's some of those things may be qualitative things like the parent involvement.
That's right.
Have you thought of a way or projected a way that we could kind of quantify some of those things?
Well, with attendance, we certainly can. I'm not sure how we can with parent involvement and all that, but I will tell you this. I don't know that necessarily all has to be quantitative. I think, there's something to be said about a school where parents are happy. Maybe we can have some type of survey similar to a working conditions survey, which I'm very proud of those results as well. In many, or well, I'm gonna say most of the indicators we're at or above the state average on. Maybe we can do a parent satisfaction survey. The problem is, I don't know that we have to necessarily always look at satisfaction. The question comes down to, are you happy that your student's there? Unfortunately, when you do surveys, sometimes if the teachers or if the parents mad at that teacher that year, it doesn't matter what they do, they're going to be upset. So I think we have to be careful with some of that. But I think there are ways, there are people a lot smarter than me when it comes to determining accountability models and all. I know there's a task force set up now. A couple of my colleagues that are superintendents are on it, looking at different ways. That's one of the areas I mentioned was the attendance. But I think we've got to find, especially in elementary school, additional areas to determine a school grade, very similar to we do in high school. I still think there are several in high school we can look at, but at least it is somewhat diversified.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Absolutely.
I did have one question, and it doesn't relate to Mr. Covington's previous question, but I was looking at some of the other interviews you've done and with your district administration leadership institute and that collaboration you had. And I remember you mentioned it was so amazing to collaborate outside of people within, North Carolina and, throughout the country, and being able to find different resources and different experiences to share. So how do you kind of bring that back to Harnett County, your experience with that and how much you loved that? Those are the most amazing things. How do you kind of bring that to Harnett County, trickle down?
Yeah, I think I mentioned this earlier. I think we all face problems that maybe someone else other than COVID, but the others have been able to overcome sometimes. And what's interesting in some of these leadership institutes is I could be sitting next to a superintendent of a school district with 2,000 students. And then on the other side of it could be a superintendent with 200,000 students. And what I've really determined is that a lot of us have many of the same concerns. But what I like to do is pick their brain, especially those that have been around a lot longer than I have, is pick their brain on how they've dealt with issues in their community, how they've dealt with issues in staffing, and try to pick their brain and bring some of that back. I'll give you one idea that I did learn from one of them. Several colleges and universities, when you are accepted, they'll send you a goodie bag and they'll have a shirt and bumper stickers and all this in it. And I went back to our assistant superintendent for HR and I said, why don't we send a swag bag to every new employee we hire, just like these colleges do when they're accepted? And so we have this package we're now sending to all of our new employees that has, I believe, has a shirt and pen and paper. And I wish now I could remember everything in it, but it was just a whole group of items, of Harnett County Schools items. And then inside that, they have a letter from me thanking them for choosing Harnett County Schools. We recognize they had a choice and we're just appreciative that they're here with us. And then some other information on beginning teacher orientation, depending on their status. And so that is one idea I picked up from Texas, I believe, where they really make a big deal out of everybody they hire. And so we're doing that. It's a Western themed package that we're sending them. And when they open it up, they'll have a bunch of Harnett County School stuff and a note from me. And so we're sending that to both certified and classified individuals. So I think that's one thing. I would have never thought of that. But when someone mentioned it, I said, it's really not that expensive. And it certainly won't pay the bills, but it hopefully will let them say, they thought of me and they kind of sent this welcome wagon package to me. And so I'll be real curious when these start rolling out to hear what people think about them.
I think that's very powerful, being vulnerable and building those relationships from the start. I know I love swag bags and little gifts and goodies. I know educators love. So that's a wonderful idea. Thank you for sharing.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a fun little thing and I have to give all the credit. I just passed the idea on, but they really ran with it. So our HR department gets credit for all that.
It really does set the tone when you send something like that out. So Dr. Fleming, as we wrap up this conversation, what do you know now after serving 5+ years in the superintendency that you wish you would have known year one when you first started in this role?
Well, I think the first thing is, people always wonder why they made that decision or this decision. And I joke with parents often when I will say, not being a superintendent, you always wonder, why did they call school off for the snow? Because there's no snow in front of my house. But and as simple as that sounds, there's a lot of times we have to make decisions that sometimes people may not completely understand when it comes to personnel. That's always a tough one because you really can't discuss it. But you just all of a sudden notice somebody's not there anymore. And I don't make light of that, but those types of decisions, when you have to make decisions in building a budget for the school district, sometimes people don't understand with all of the state money we receive and federal money, as you guys all know, there's a lot of strings attached to that. And so why can't we use teacher funds to pay for more school buses? You just can't do that. And I think a lot of people don't understand that. And so I think probably the number one thing is you have to wear a lot of hats in this job. You have to understand a lot of policy, a lot of rules. And sometimes it's hard to explain the decisions and why you had to make them. But I can tell you, I've never woke up in the morning and said, I want to make a bad decision today. That doesn't mean all my decisions have been perfect, but we all get out of bed every morning, want to do the best we can. And we want to be able to make the best decisions we can. And hopefully we surround good people so that we always make good decisions. And that's probably been the number one thing, though, is the fact that a lot of decisions have to be made at a district level that not only impact all of our students, but impact the livelihoods of all of, in Harnett County, 2,300 staff members as well.
That's great. That's so well said. Dr. Fleming, thank you so much for joining us, and you have an open invitation.
Thank you, Dr.
Come back.
Thank you so much. It was great to spend this time with you. Thank you so much.
We really appreciate it. We also want to thank our audience so very much for watching our program. We hope that you will engage us on our social media platforms. Please like our Facebook page. Please follow us on Twitter. Our handle is @TarHillTeachers. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, visit our website, tarhillteachers.com, and on all of our social media platforms, please use our hashtag #TarHillTeachers so we can find all of your great comments. I'd like to thank our wonderful group of co-hosts for joining us for this conversation: Amy Tart, Antonio Covington, Marissa Fuchs, and Arisha Smalls. And once again, we'd like to thank our special guest for joining us, Dr. Aaron Fleming, Superintendent of Harnett County Schools, and he is the two-time Sandhills Region Superintendent of the Year. We look forward to seeing you next time on Tar Heel Teachers at Home.